The most iconic move in the sport of trials is jumping up to your back wheel. And today I'm going to teach you the easiest way to learn how to do it. There are actually two different techniques to jump up to back wheel, but we're going to start with the easier of the two techniques. If you can do a standing wheelie, you're going to pick this up fast. This technique has a lot of different names. People sometimes call it a pedal up, they call it a wheelie hop, a three pedal. But really what we're doing is creating a lot of momentum with a big pop at the end that's going to help you not only get up onto the obstacle, but have the momentum to stay on the obstacle. So by doing this and learning this the easy way, it's actually going to get you onto the obstacle and stay on the obstacle. You see a lot of people when they try to jump up to back wheel on stuff, they don't get all the way up and then they fall off the back. So this method, while it's the easiest to learn, it's also the most effective to keep you on the obstacle once you jump up. Let's dive directly into the technique. I'll add in some detail along the way so you understand why we're doing what we're doing, but what we need to start with is a flat ground area. We're gonna remove every single obstacle and just focus in on the fundamentals here. Once you're on your bike and you're on flat ground, you're gonna roll very slow with your opposite foot at the top of the pedal stroke. So I normally ride with my right foot forward, and in this case, I'm gonna have my left foot at the top of the stroke. What we're going to do is give the bike two quick pedals in succession, and that's gonna give us the explosive power to get us up and off the ground. Let's talk about the role of each pedal movement in this technique. Each one does something totally different. So we start with our opposite foot on the top of the pedal stroke. And as we push down on that, we move our body to the back of the bike. And this does two different things. Number one, it makes it so the front wheel comes up easier because we're unweighting the bike. But number two, it prepares our body position for the takeoff. As my strong foot comes around in the pedal rotation, I give it a big explosive kick. And at the end of that kick, I do my pedal scoop, which we've done in a few other techniques, where you push down, back, and up on your pedals. So you've done this big explosive movement, and then you give that big scoop at the end of it, and those two things are what's gonna lift the bike up off the ground. The best part about all of this is that you've just learned the building blocks to not just one, but two different trials techniques. You'll notice that we're jumping forward when we do this pedal technique, and so this is the foundation of not only jumping up to back wheel, but jumping gaps as well. If you find that you're not getting that explosive movement at the end of your pedal stroke, it could be that you're going into the movement a little bit too fast. You may want to slow that down. It should be a rapid acceleration when you hit that last pedal stroke, not a gradual increase. Three things to keep in mind with this technique. Number one, keep your arms loose. You're going to be doing sort of a rowing motion with your arms, and if you're all Frankensteined out, you're gonna lose a lot of that movement with your arms. Number two is to keep that front wheel low. So when you lift that front wheel off the ground, you don't wanna bring it up all the way into wheelie position right away, because then you don't have anywhere to pull the front wheel. So try to keep it a little bit lower. If you watch trials riders, they have their front wheel low and then they snap up like that. And you want to do the same thing. So try practicing that standing wheelie, but keeping the front wheel as low as possible so you have some room to snap. The third thing is to always remember the scoop. We talked about it in the technique, but it's one area where people kind of forget. Make sure you're scooping with those pedals, that down, back, and up movement as you get to the end of your pedal stroke. That makes a huge difference when it comes to pulling the bike up and getting you the height that you actually want. Now that you understand the basics of this technique, it's time to add in pedal timing, which is the next phase when it comes to applying this to obstacles. So up until this point, you've been just practicing this on flat ground. You've been practicing a consistent takeoff with an under control landing. One thing that people struggle with a lot in that phase is landing under control. They'll kind of fall off to the right or off to the left. And if that happened to you, what you need to do is spread your knees just a little bit wider. Focus in on how wide you're making your base. So have your knees a little bit wide. That'll give you a lot more balance when you're landing and even taking off from the movement. Back to pedal timing. What we're trying to do here is figure out how much space we need to turn over the pedals twice to get that explosive pop at the end and land where we want to go. You can do this again on flat ground by just picking out a spot that you're going to land, or you can find a super low obstacle like a pallet or a curb. My general rule on pedal timing is that I want my bike to take off at the same distance away from the obstacle as the height of the obstacle. So I normally give myself about a wheelbase and a half distance to get the whole job done. Now this is the hardest part to get consistent and to understand when it comes to this entire movement. But once you have this, you can start going higher and higher and higher. Once you've got your consistent technique and you're landing under control every single time and you understand pedal timing, you can add another pallet on top of the pallet you've been practicing on, and then another one and another one. And what it really comes down to is over-exaggerating your movements. So 3 things that I'm really over-exaggerating. Number 1 is my preload. I'll actually sink down into the bike as I'm getting ready to push that first pedal to preload the movement. Then as I do that explosive movement and the scoop with my pedals, I'm actually using my arms to do a bit of a scoop as well. So think about what you're doing with your handlebars. You're pulling it into your body and then you're doing this rowing motion, which kind of mirrors what you're doing with your pedals. The last thing I'm doing is I'm pushing the bike out as far in front of me as I possibly can. And that's what gets that iconic trials movement of pushing the bike out just like this. This one takes a lot of time to just get right, but trusting your brakes, trusting your pedal timing, and just repetition is exactly what's gonna get you that height. Now that you're up onto the obstacle, it's time to get down. Go check out this video right here. It's the easiest way to learn drops.